Hello YouTube, it's Finon here once again. I'm going to bring you a healing guide to my personal preference of how I heal in mutations and PvE. So what I've got up here is my lifestyle skills, and as you can see I'm currently using Divine Embrace, Sacred Ground and Orb of Protection. I'll explain why I've spec'd it this way and what the difference is, but this is my personal preference, so there is many other ways you can spec, but this is just the way that I like to. So we'll start with the protection tree. I'm going to go down fully an Orb of Protection. It's got more utility and the radius is larger. I'm going to use two of the off specs in protection, which is the dodge. Heals 20% more effective for it's 5.5 seconds near a 6. Every time you dodge you get 20% onto your healing. And also I'm going to use the protector strength, which is if you have a buff, heal for 20% more. Most of the time within dungeons or PvE you're going to be buffed, so you're going to be getting that 20% extra. So on the healing tree, I only go down 3 in Divine Embrace. Rebound only gives you an extra person, so as long as you've got this one, you've got an extra ally that you're going to heal. So this is a 2-person heal as long as they're under 50%. Sacred Ground is the most obvious and the most used healing part of the tree. It's an area effect circle, goes round, anyone within it gets fortify and heals. So we're going all the way down to the bottom of that. So we'll start from the right. So Life Staff, light and heavy attacks no longer consume mana, so you can keep shooting, and I use the right hand side, which is Blissful Touch, which it heals the enemy that it passes through when you're shooting it, so you can consistently do damage and heal the ally between you and the boss. I don't use Mending Touch, some people do. As it passes through it does take a debuff away from your ally, but haven't really found that much useful. So the next one is Desperate Speed. When you heal an ally below 50% health, life staff abilities cooldown are reduced by 10%. So it is helping you to reduce them cooldowns on Divine Embrace, Orb and Sacred Ground. Revitalise. When you hit with a light attack, reduce life staff abilities. Because of the one above, this one here and this, you're going to be light attacking pretty much constantly on your life staff. So this is going to be reducing your cooldowns constantly every time you hit. So this is a very important one. Then you've got Sacred Protection. While holding a life staff, increase the amount of incoming healing to all friendlies in your group by 5%. So basically it is a 5% increase in healing for you. And then what you've got is Intensify, which is when you hit with a heavy attack, gain stacking 10% of healing effective, and it can stack up to 3 times. And then obviously you just take the bottom one, anyone below 50% health, they're healed by 30% more. So in them dangerous situations when you're popping out a Divine Embrace and they're in Sacred, most of the time you're going to be healing for near on full health. So there we go. So what I'll do is I'll show you how I stat. So let me just respec here. So they're my standard stacks with the armour I've got on, which I'll go through. Depending on what dungeon it is depending on how I stat. Normally, if I'm going to help DPS, which is Gen this week, I would stat this up 200 with food. So like this, and then I would stack this up. And then I'll use a intellect and constitution, so that takes me over 100, and I'm 200. And that's how I would heal Genesis, because in our gen groups I DPS as well as heal. Without that you can do, and my most common build is running 300 focus, 50 intellect and 125 constitution, because as I'll show you in a minute, on my Void Gauntlet I'm using Refreshing Move, so I can get Oblivion down and keep Oblivion up constantly for the DPS, and with the crits obviously it reduces the cooldown for Oblivion, helpful for more damage. So that is completely up to you. Anything over 250 focus, between these it's minimal increase, but you can do it. Anything 250 and above you're perfectly fine. If you're struggling, get to the 300 mark. If you find that maybe you can do some DPS, or maybe you can get involved, maybe drop it down to 200 and put some more intellect on the Void Gauntlet. So on the next thing, let's go through the armour. So my armour here is set up for Gen, so at the moment everything's got Angry Earth on. Obviously throughout all the instances you're going to have to change your armour, so you're going to have a few different bits of armour: Angry Earth, Corrupted Ward, and Ancient Ward, and now the new one, which is Lost Ward. So 4 different types of armour for all of the instances. What you want to do is try and aim for your 3 main skills as perks on all of them. So Refreshing Divine Embrace is one of mine, and then Fortified Sacred Ground is a must throughout, and then Mending Protection is another one. Your third perk, which is a bonus, it's not a must but it is a bonus, Refreshing Ward I've got on here. I would actually say swapping that out for a Refreshing Evasion would be better, but it's not too bad. I've got Resilient on here, what doesn't do anything really in PvE, so it's just a dead stat, but it's a good piece of armour. I've got Purify of Light on here, which is just in case I want to swap over and use Splash of Light, which I don't often, but it's there. And I've got Blight Resistance on there as well, which helps within the Angry Earth instance. On the legs, I've got Shirking Energy, which means if I avoid an attack I get 29 stamina, Mending Protection, Angry Earth. And on the boots, I'm just running Vigour and Angry Earth. I'm looking to swap these for something a little bit better later on. But as you can see, all of them have got Focus or Constitution on. Then we go down to the jewellery. For my case, and I quite like it, is I run Fortify, Health and Mana Recovery. Fortify for the 30% extra longer on Fortify. Obviously Health is quite an important one if you're going to run low con. It gives you 9.7% more health, and Mana Recovery is when I hit below 50% gain 98 mana, which is quite handy when I'm spam healing. On the ring is you can change these for con, focus, intellect. The stats just level them out, but mine's intellect con. I've got Refreshing Evasion for the helpful cooldown reductions, Hearty, which means I get that extra dodge if I need it, and Sacred it's important but not overly important, but I would suggest to get it. Then for my earring, I've got Mana Toast, Refreshing and Refreshing Toast. Mana Toast just in case, I've got an extra heal pot there and I'm using mana pots quite regularly, so I'm topping myself off every now and then. Refreshing for the cooldown reduction, and Refreshing Toast so my pots come up a lot quicker. Going over to weapons, this is my choice. I like to run Void Gauntlet Life Staff just out of preference, and for my PvE runs I like to run Refreshing Move and then the Bane of whatever instance I'm running. And Refreshing Move means that I can keep Oblivion up for my DPS constantly. With that extra 10% crit on the 50 in Intellect, that means that I can keep Oblivion up. Before it comes down I can put it back and we've got a constant Oblivion on bosses. And then for my life staff, I'm using Iridescence, which is from the new instance, Black Powder, which has got Blessed, Refreshing Invasion and Fortified Sacred Ground. I'm using both Fortified Sacred Ground on 2 pieces, so that if I swap to my Void Gauntlet, I'm still getting a buff from my legs, but if I'm not and I've got my staff out, I'm getting the buffed version of it of 16%. So that's why I've got it on both. You don't have to, you can pick either or, but I've got it just in case I'm swapping about because I'm doing a bit more DPS. Like I said, everything changes between instances. The gems within them, depending on what they are, is depending on what gems you are. So if it's a nature, you've got to get your nature gems. If it's a void, you've got to swap into void gems, so forth. So yeah, you need to stock up on them gems and make sure that you've got them. So what I'm going to do is just show you a little thing on the training dubby. So with the buff with the 3 heavy attacks, if you're running 3 heavy attacks, you can stack it up and you'll get this buff for 15 seconds, which gives you a 10% increase healing. You can also add that in with the roll, which gives you both of them, and then place your sacred. That'll give you the biggest sacred that you could possibly get with them. You can also obviously heal with Divine Embrace and send the orb out. It gives you that bonus why it's stacked. It will go, you can keep rolling, and another thing with Hearty is every 5 seconds you can give it a roll and you can keep your buff up, not a problem. Also with the heavy attacks, once you've stacked them, if you can keep an eye on them and get them in your rotation so you can see the time going down, all you need to do is charge another attack and it'll refresh that heavy attack. So every 7 seconds you can just pop a heavy attack on and you'll keep that extra healing. The other thing that I would suggest is basic food, energizing hearty meals, so you get 30% mana regen during PvE. I'm using either the roasted rabbit for 40 con, or if I'm running a bit of intellect and a bit of con, I'll run the cheaper, which is glazed bear and salted vegetables. That's my choice. I try and mix it in. Obviously, the roasted rabbit with seasoned vegetables are normally quite expensive, so I try my hardest to make sure that I use the glazed bear with salted vegetables on there. So hopefully that gives you a little insight of how I'm running and what I'm doing. My rotation when I'm in is most of the time when we're on mobs, I'm not really charging the heavy attacks. I'm putting the sacred ground down on the DPS and just firing in light attacks while rolling backwards. Like this. Obviously giving them orb when needed. With the sacred ground, you can either target your player through the group, or I'm using middle mouse button so I can move it around and I can place it where I want. It's completely up to you how you want to heal that. Obviously with the Void Gauntlet, the Oblivion is a bonus, and then I'm using refreshing moves, so before Oblivion's disappeared I can put another one down. And that's quite important on a lot of bosses, so that we can DPS it constantly with the buff. But yeah, that is a rough guide to my healing and what I'm doing and my gear. Obviously it's an expensive thing when you're running PvE, because you're going to need 4 to 5 different gear sets with 4 to 5 different Void Gauntlets, and sometimes even a couple of different lifestaffs depending on your preference. But you can get there. The healing's pretty easy once you're on top of it. You can run the way you want, but this is the way that I prefer to run, and hopefully the little insight of what I'm doing and how I'm running can help you guys decide what way you want to go with the healing. So any questions or anything like that, leave them down in the comments. I'll try and reply, and if you like the information or you like the videos, please hit that subscribe button and the like button, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you.